All right, we are in the show and we are live. Hello,
Hello.
hello, and welcome to Tarot Talk with Minnassa, not on Saturday, but on Tuesday night. I want to begin by thanking Dolly so much because we had this set for the 20th, and then I had a schedule change, and then the schedule changed again, so we could have actually done it tomorrow night. But now I
Oh, that's okay.
am back to doing that. So I'm so glad. Thank you for your flexibility. And then thank you for those of you who are here now. I see my wonderful Janet P. Always so good to me,
Oh,
inspiring and
Janet
supporting and
P.
encouraging me from in my mornings with Manasa. And so very, very good to have Janet P here. And I see there's other people lurking because I see the numbers, but not in the chat. And I always want to, I told Dolly, I got to make sure I want to thank those who catch the replay. I have like 15, 25 people in my chat, and then I'll come back and watch, look, I'll be looking at something else. Hey, Cheyenne. And then it's like 150 views. So it's very good. So Cheyenne's my daughter from another sister and mister,
Oh,
but
hey.
she is here and glad to have her. And oh, my girl Jane the Seeker Tarot. So very good. And so I want to welcome all of you. I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank my special guest. And so her link is in the show notes. She has just started officially. That's right. And my sweet, sweet KD, I love you.
Katie.
And
That's
so
my that's my sister
her,
from another mister.
that's right. Uh, Dolly's what am I trying to say? YouTube link is in the show notes. Of course, you can just go into YouTube and put in Dolly, the Wolf Girl Oracle, and you can find her. And let's get her subs up, subscribe to her page. So thank you all for being here. I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for following me on another night. So let me tell you that my next show, which is on Tuesday, I guess I should have my calendar before I start talking about stuff. So here we go. So I'll be back to my regular schedule. So the first Sunday in August, no, the first, I don't even know the date. The first Saturday in August, my special guest will be the one and only Jane the Seeker Tarot. She will be on my show. I'm sure we're going to be having a blast. And Jane, I'm letting you know I love the angels. So let's talk about and work with the angels and whatever else you want to do. On the 20th, which is my next show, I'm going to have Jay from her 2134
Ooh, cool.
So I'll have Jay Harris. And then the first Saturday in September, I'm trying to get like KD and get the schedules filled up, right? The first Saturday in September, which is Labor Day weekend, I'm calling the show, hey, Flowing. I'm calling the show The British Invasion plus Gerald. So I will have Richie from Longman Tarot, Ben from Beneficial Tarot, and then my boyfriend, which is what I call him all the time, my boyfriend Gerald from Tarot Stash. And you know already, I'll just basically be sitting there and they can just take over the show and do whatever. And so that's what I've got up to here. And so I'm very good. So without further ado, I welcome you, Dolly. I'm glad that you, now am I saying your name right?
Dolly, yes,
All right.
you got it.
And so let's begin by you telling us a little something about yourself, about your channel, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, well, I have started a channel. It's called the Wolf Girl Oracle. And some of you may have seen me in Katie Moonchild's, a lot of her stuff as Rachel.
Oh, hold on.
Where'd I go?
Sorry, I was trying to.
There I am. So, yeah, I started my own channel. I have a strong spirituality that I would like to share with the world or with anyone who might need to get to understand their own spirituality. I've walked several different spiritual paths in my life. Started off with Christian, went to Buddhist, and now I am almost completely in the Fellowship of Northern Traditions, which is a Northern Tradition pagan community. And so my channel is going to be a mix of oracle readings, I'd like to do some shadow work and help people do some shadow work because I feel like shadow work is really, really important to spiritual growth. And talk a little bit about paganism on my channel as well, and the different pagan gods and what they mean to me and how I worship them. And um, yeah, so that's what I'm hoping to do with my channel, and it's still brand new. I've only got a couple videos up so far, but there will be more coming down the line as soon as I can do more videos. So, but I love talking to, a lot of the people in this community. I feel like I have felt so much spiritual growth from this community. It's unbelievable. Katie Moonchild is she's more than just my sister. In many ways, she's a spiritual advisor to me. She's like my big sister in
All
spirituality.
right. All right.
I'm
All
starting
right.
to feel that way too about you too, though, Minnassa, because you have such wisdom. It's so refreshing to hear that kind of wisdom come from a place of love, the way that you do it, and I deeply, deeply appreciate that. So,
Thank
so
you. You can
that's
have more than one big sister.
yes, I can.
I was like actually controlling myself. I was saying, no, Katie's mine. I thought, don't be like that. Don't be like that. So,
Oh,
so
I think she's a sister to a lot of us.
she is a sweetie cake. She's a sweetie,
She's
sweetie
got a
lady.
heart of service.
She
She
does.
really, she
She
really,
does.
really does.
She does. And I see that Renee from Tarot Love Community is here. So
Hi,
welcome.
Renee. Hi, Renee.
And so let's get straight to it. So you talked to we. So one of the things is I think I was on a show. I don't maybe it was mine and you said, hey, I think I said if someone wants to be on my show, let me know. And I think you said I want to talk about the Norse gods. And
Yes,
so we finally were able to contact each other. And I explained to you that I was like, I'm kind of nervous about it.
yes, yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
so there's just so much. And then it's like, I know Thor, right? Because I watch the Marvel movies, but there's so much more to it than that. And like
yes, yes.
Ragnarok, so there's like all this stuff. I think, okay, how much is Hollywood and how much is a part of this beautiful spiritual tradition? And so the pagan northern traditions, talk to us about your spirituality and then the deities that you work with. And I'm always looking to I'll say incorporate the divine feminine has just come for me. So I say I'm going to take you to the show and I'm going to start keep talking. So just one more minute. So today I
Okay.
was having some total mess. Friday I was like on an almost meltdown, like just take drugs, and I don't even take drugs. But I was just like trying to deal with my registration because my people that have my car in California just doing some really stupid stuff. And so today I had to call again. And I said, ladies, I'm gonna take care of it. And I live in a small county, so they're taking very good care of me. Hey, Mystique 83. And then they're like, I just said, listen, my guides, the divine feminines always ask me. So I'm like, here we go. So I'm like, I got on Lakshmi right now. I'm like, Lakshmi, I invite you into this situation. And Kuan Yin, the many-handed God, goddess, I invite you into this situation. And Itchia, I invite you into this situation. I thought, okay, so there's nurturing and mystical and magic. But then I was like, okay, Viracocha, I need a creator God. I need some of that divine masculine. And they called me back. It was all taken care of. I'm like, yes, yes. Let's see because Aiden is here. So let's
Yeah.
tell us about what is your spirituality and how did you come to that? You were saying we're talking about your sweet mama who is healing and embodying her divine health. That is my prayer for her.
Hmm.
How is it that you even found out about that? And what is your practice? And tell us
Well,
about who you interact with.
okay. So I started just as like many people do as a Christian, and I have no problem with Jesus. I don't. I feel like he's a divine master. He gave the world a lot of wisdom that the world took and twisted.
Indeed.
And that's kind of how I feel about that. But there's good stuff in there. And I feel like so I've researched many different religions. Christianity starting, of course, that was my base. But I also looked at Judaism. I read through the Quran, which during the height of right after 9/11, I went and got a Quran and I read it. I'm like, I'm not going to hate anybody until I understand them completely. And I really don't want to hate anybody anyway. So I read the Quran
Right,
and I'm
right.
like, I don't see anything in here that is going against the grain of my personal principles here. So no hate there. And I also studied Zen Buddhism then for many years. And so when you said Kuan Yin, I was like, yeah, that's my
That's my
girl.
girl. That
I
is my
love,
girl.
I love Kuan Yin. I have several, statues in here of her,
That's my
some
girl.
with her bottle up, some with her bottle down, pouring the blessings out to the
All
world.
right.
And then I started researching really my ancestry. This is where my leap into Northern traditions began. I started looking at my ancestry. I grew up thinking that I was German and that was it. Okay, that all I was German. But after I had my DNA tested, I realized I'm more than just German. I'm also Irish. I'm Swedish. I've got Russian in me, and German and Polish. I'm a mutt. I'm a
Heinz
whole bunch of different
57.
things.
Heinz 57.
Yeah, I am totally a Heinz 57. So I was like, well, I'm going to start looking at what my ancestors believed, my ancient
Mm,
ancestors,
mm,
and that took me on a deep dive into um, German and Proto-German paganism, Swedish paganism,
mm.
um, Norse, the Norse paganism. I looked at Polish paganism. I looked at Irish, because I have some Irish in me as well. So I looked at the whole Celtic pantheon of gods. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized that a lot of these gods, even though they have different names, serve the same purpose in the pantheon as somebody from if I'm looking at the Celtic pantheon, I'm seeing a similar in Greek, in Norse, and I'm like, why are all these gods so similar? Is there a connection? So that took me into a deep dive into
Okay.
Indo-Europeans and the whole Indo-European and Proto-Indo-European migration of peoples. And then that took me into other places. That took me into looking at the pantheons of Asia and the pantheons of Africa, which there's a rich, dynamic tapestry of gods and goddesses all across Africa and South America and Australia with the Aboriginal people from there. And I just went, wow, you have all these gods, but there is God, they serve sort of a purpose in the pantheon, and you can find similarities in pretty much every pantheon that you look at. And that really got me interested in, why is that? Is it just human nature to look for those things? Or was there once a root group of people, a root community that spread out across the world, which I tend to believe in because of languages. And when you look at DNA and the migration of people and language, you can see exactly how these people moved out from one place and spread out across the world, or in a couple different places and spread out across the world.
Correct. So, like talk about out of Africa, that folks we started
Yes.
in Africa, or then
Yes.
some people say no, they started in Australia. It's like, okay, started far away from where we are now, or like
Right.
you talked about, say, go pekle, what is it?
Gobekli Tepe.
There
Yes.
you go. There you
Yes.
go.
I
Puma
believe.
Punku, all those things. So even
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
when we had our initial conversation that there's the pyramids in Egypt, and people think that's the only place there in Africa. There's pyramids all over Africa.
All
There's
over
pyramids
Africa.
all over South America. There's so that
Yes.
there was at one time, which I think got wiped out of history books because that patriarchal, which we talked about, that patriarchy benefits from division, where
Yes.
matriarchy and matrilineal ways of doing things benefit from community, from
Yes.
nurturing. And so
And
to
that,
stop that, because then I'll say, no, you and I aren't the same because we worship different gods. And if we sat down and said, oh, they do the same thing, right?
right. For all we know, there might be, I don't know. I just, when I look at this, I see enough similarity to say we have far more in common than we have not in common. And
True,
we
true.
need to start focusing on that. And so that took me into seeking out, looking for a community of pagan believers that I could glean more information from and learn more about these gods of old,
Let me interrupt you for a minute again, because
Sure.
that's what I do.
That's okay.
Let's talk about the term pagan, because I
Yes.
think I was also on the show with Richie, And pagan at one time was used as a very pejorative term, like, oh, you a pagan. But
Yes.
now you have, and many people have been able to embrace that term. So can you expand that a little bit more?
Well, really, the pagans versus all paganism really means is your fundamental base of worship is nature based,
Okay.
and everything sprouts from that. In Norse paganism, they have the Landvitirs, which are the spirits of the land. And the further back you go, those are some of the oldest worshipped deities are the spirits of the Landvitir, the spirits of the land. It's a very animist, kind of concept where everything is that you see in nature and yourselves are part of like a bigger divine collective. So in pagan religions, you have there's a solid nature based base, okay, and from there springs out a pantheon of gods that incorporate all of the aspects of that natural system. And as time progressed, the gods became more and more human, right? Like in Norse paganism, you have Odin, who's kind of like Odin is the all father. He is kind of the king of kings, okay? And Odin and his wife had many children, and those children are all gods, and the children of the children are all gods, and they all serve a certain purpose in the pantheon. But like Marvel calls Thor the god of thunder, but in Norse paganism, you don't have gods of a particular thing, that you have gods of a particular purpose. Thor's purpose
Hmm.
Thor's purpose was as the great warrior protecting Midgard, and Midgard is where we live. Midgard is Earth, okay?
Okay. Okay.
And Odin was sort of he was a god of wisdom. He was a god of wisdom and war, but his purpose in the pantheon was to spread wisdom through parable and through the Havmal, which is a book that is like all of Odin's quotes, like all the quotes of Odin. Reads a lot like Proverbs. Okay, so I know the Bible, so Proverbs reads like, just here are the common sense things that every human being should follow if they want to have a happy life.
Right. It's
And
the wisdom book of the Bible.
correct,
That's
and
what I
that
call
is
it, the
what.
wisdom book of the Old Testament. And I want to welcome Mama Bear while we're here.
Hi, Mama Bear. So the Havmal is basically that. Odin, when you were talking about.
All right. Is that me or her frozen? Let's see if she comes back. And did you see that my boyfriend here is here, Gerald? Welcome, Mr. Sir. Let me go to my channel. Okay, it looks like I'm still up. Let's give Rachel Adali a minute. It looks like Joan B. Hey, welcome. All right. So, Rachel, if you can hear, why don't you go out and come back in? And hopefully that'll help us with that. All right. And Brittany Harris, welcome. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And please remember to hit the thumbs up on my channel. And then please subscribe to Rachel's channel. And her information is down here. All right. Here she goes. Here she goes.
I don't know what happened there.
You're good. No,
My internet went out.
Brittany Harris came in, and now Sharon Sipe. I'm just saying,
Hi,
this is like old home week. Let's talk about so when you talk about the pantheon, so like most of us know about Zeus.
Yes, he's a
and
Greek
all
god.
those people.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the pantheon. So okay. I showed you that this is my card from
that's Odin.
My Ascended Keepers of the Light by Kyle Gray. Mm-hmm. So it has Odin. It talks about psychic insight. Your third eye is open. see truth for what it is and follow your intuition. And so I didn't even know. So I want you to talk about Odin, but I want to know, say again the name of that book.
The
Where the heck do you find
Havamal.
it?
Here, wait. I got a copy here. Hang
And
on.
welcome to my daughter who is a month out from going to Africa. I'm so excited. The Havamal. When you get a chance, will you take a picture of that and send it to me? Just
Yes.
text it to me later.
Yes, I
So
will. I
this
will.
is like the whistle. So I just want to clarify for myself because I'm a nerd and I like information. So
Yeah.
this is like this a sacred text of the Norse
It's one of them. Yes.
of the
Yes.
Norse religion.
Correct. Yes.
All right.
There are several, but this is really where it starts, is with the Wanderer's Havamal.
No, see, I
And
didn't even know there was such a book.
oh, I'll send you it. I'll send you it. We'll talk later and I'll send you a copy.
All right.
Because I feel like it's great. It's great wisdom and information, and it kind of gives you some insight into what the culture was like during the time of the Vikings. And a lot of what is written down about the Norse paganism was written down by Christians after
Oh,
the
of
after
course.
the after the Viking era. So some of it you have to take with a grain of salt because there is a Christian taint on um, a lot of the books that we consider to be not holy, but the best sources of information.
Correct. And sometimes there are books like I can't think of it right now, but there are books that they know about that are non-biblical because
Mhm.
one of the bishops from the third century has a rant about how awful it is. And so it's like,
Right,
well, what is this book? We don't know what it is. What are you talking about?
right,
And I'm
right.
throwing wrenches, by the way, too.
Okay. Well, yeah, like with the Nag Hammadi library and any of the Gnostic teachings, a lot of that stuff was left out of or was demonized because it basically didn't tote the line that
Of
the
course,
Vatican wanted at the time,
of course,
so
of course.
but that doesn't mean that there's not amazing information in those books. So I think it's really sad and just bad that you know they're demonized the way that they are, because I find that they're actually very
Well,
spiritually
I'm excited
insightful.
and ecstatic about that book. I didn't even because for me to learn about religions, I want to read, understand the context. Like even when I put together a sermon or even a message, I am still very much into the text, making
Mhm.
sure that I am faithful to the concept, to the understanding, that I will bring it
Right,
into the modern day. And so to be, I might have a sermon with Odin in it. All right,
right.
so here we go.
And Odin is quite the character. He hung
So
from
let's
a
talk
tree.
about him.
He hung from a tree. He wanted to gain wisdom. He wanted to gain the wisdom of the runes. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with runes at all, but
Hey,
that's a
remember this
big
is
part of
Hollywood.
our big part of our practice revolves around the wisdom of the runes. Now, runes come in my runes are like they're tiles. They're tiles that you put in a bag and you shake it up and you take out your tile and you can do like a daily pull like you would with a card, like with an
Hmm.
like with an oracle card, or you can do a spread with runes like you would just with like any kind of cards, oracle or tarot. But I happen to have some on card, that I
So
got.
this is
That
like
it's a
an
deck.
oracle deck of the
Yes,
runes.
yes,
Oh my God. Okay, send me a picture of that too.
yeah. See,
I mean, spend responsibly, know your
I
limits,
I know I
entertainment
love
purposes
these
only, for
because they
inspirational purposes only, for educational purposes only. And I don't want my wife to hear me asking you to send me a picture.
yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble with your wife. That's not
Okay.
good. But anyways, I like these a lot because they actually have the symbol, they have the actual word, and then they have a brief description of what each one of those symbols
That
means. So
is awesome.
I use them like flashcards to really get to know them. So when I pull a rune, I already know what it means. That's what I use these for. But they're great for like a daily pull too.
Wow.
As
Wow.
long as you're as long as you're getting
People,
getting in touch with the spirits, and asking them to guide your. And I like incorporate angels into my into my practice too. I feel strongly and have a strong belief in angels.
So now,
Um,
are angels a part of the northern? I want to make sure the pagan northern traditions.
they have they don't have angels in the sense that Christians or Muslims or Jews have angels or spiritualists have angels. These angels are called Valkyries. Have you ever heard of the
The
Valkyries?
Valkyries, yes. Okay.
Yeah. The Valkyries, they're not angels, but they're a type of messenger that goes between man and Odin, or
A type
man
of
and
what?
they're a type of angel. They're a spiritual being.
Okay.
They what the Valkyries do is they come and they take the people who have died in battle and take them to Valhalla, and Valhalla is Odin's hall. So it's basically a version of heaven. It's a place where people go when they die, but only if you're a warrior or you've died in battle.
So now,
Everyone
where
else
did
everyone else goes to a place called hell, but it's not hell in the sense that of Christian hell. It's Hel. It's part of Helheim, which is basically just where everybody else goes. It's where everybody else goes when they die. It's a
and
kind of a
I first say, you're
holding
going
place.
to hell because you're gay. I'll be like, I'm going to Helheim. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm okay. I'm
you're
ready.
gonna go drink. You're gonna go drink and
Oh,
feast
girl,
and
I'm
wait
there.
and
I
wait for
am there.
Ragnarok.
They're drinking, honey. I am there. Thank you to my boyfriend Gerald. That's right. Know your limits. Purchase responsibly.
Yes.
Deck collector disclaimer.
Yeah, there's decks
So
are
let's
a
tell
little
us more about Odin. So I
okay.
think Jane said like Odin lost his eye, and
Yes,
we talked about that Odin could be represented by the hanged man. So the
yes,
story that I know is that Odin, there's the fates that are a part of the Norse pagan tradition,
yeah,
and he wanted to get their wisdom, and they're underneath the
right.
big tree. Now you say the right name,
They're
and
called
so
okay. The tree is called Yggdrasil,
and they were there,
and they were there,
and
and
he
the
wanted.
fates are called the
Joan
fates.
B said, "Meet up in Helheim."
Yes, the
That's
fates are
right.
the
That's
fate.
right. So he wanted to hang, so he
Yeah,
hung
yeah,
so that he could be where they were. And welcome, Brenda
right,
Rosario,
right. Because they're actually called the Norns,
the Norn.
Norns. Yeah, Norns, and the Norns.
Okay, so let me just say right now, Rach, I'm so, darling, I'm so far. Okay, you're coming back already because there's just too much
Too
information
much,
here. So
right?
you're coming back already. So this is part one of her visit to the show.
Okay. The Norns carved the fate of every living being into the roots of Yggdrasil. And
Okay.
Yggdrasil is the big giant ash tree that all the realms of the universe rest upon. It's a spiritual tree, but it's a tree. And the Norns carve the runes into the roots of the tree to decide the fates of all mankind. And Odin wanted that power. He wanted to know what those runes meant and what magic and wisdom they could bring to him. So yes, he hung upside down from a tree for 3 days so that he could get that wisdom, and that is where the hangman card comes from. It's Odin hanging from the tree. But Odin also plucked out his eye and traded it with a god named I think his name is Mimir. I don't quote me on that. I think it's Mimir, but he wanted to be able to have that vision. He wanted to have that supernatural vision, um, and so he plucked out an eye and gave it to Mimir, and Mimir let him drink from the well that gave him this power.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's cool stuff. I mean, it's for me, it's interesting, and it makes me wonder, okay, did this already happen? Is it going to happen? Like, did Ragnarok already happen? There in
So now
Ragnarok
let's
is
talk
sort of the
about it.
end of
What
the
is
world.
Ragnarok? What is
Ragnar,
Ragnarok?
Ragnarok was the end, was essentially the end of all the realms. It was at one time there was a bridge that went from Asgard, which is where all of the gods lived, here to um, Midgard, where we live. And after Ragnarok happened and everything was destroyed, um, only a couple gods survived that and some human beings. And a lot of us who are in the northern traditions believe that this already has happened. that Ragnarok happened long, long ago, and we are the offspring of those humans that survived Ragnarok.
So now let's talk about, we talked about this earlier, that where like uh, Jesus or Buddha or Lord Shiva, they can't be killed.
Correct.
That is not the case for the Norse deities.
Correct. They had flesh and blood bodies just like we have. In fact, in order for them to not age, they had to eat special magical apples that the goddess Idun would give them, these golden apples. And there's a lot of golden apple stuff in a lot of different mythologies all throughout Northern Europe.
You mean like the apple that they say was given that in the Garden of Eden, which of course it wouldn't be apples in Africa, but still the concept that an
Yes,
apple, a
yes,
fruit,
yes.
had life and knowledge and information.
Correct, correct. And so the gods eat these fruits to stay young. And there's actually a story in, I think it's in the Prose Edda, which is another kind of not a holy book, but a book of like spirituality that tells all the stories that happened to the gods. There's a story in there where a Dune got kidnapped and the gods didn't have access to their apples and they all started to age very fast because they didn't have access to those apples. So when they got her back and they were able to eat their apples, they were able to regain their youth and beauty. But without it, they would have died. They would have aged and died. And most of the gods died during Ragnarok. Like only just a couple survive Ragnarok. Njord is one of them. I think Freyr.
So now let's talk
Don't
about,
quote me on that. Because I'm kind of rusty
no quoting, no
on
quoting
that.
yet.
But,
Once I get the book, I'll correct you. No, I'm kidding.
okay.
So let's talk about, so when you say the end of the world and Ragnarok and the other, what happened?
Well, the god,
And
there's a god
Mama
named
Bear just subbed to your channel.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't see the chat. I have my little computer over here, but for whatever reason, it's not bringing the chat up for me. So I apologize if anybody's asking questions and I'm not
No
answering.
worries, I got
can't
you.
see it.
So yeah, so
Okay,
Ragnarok, what happened? It was the end of the world, but
ever hear of the god Loki? Ever hear of Loki?
yes.
If you know the Marvel movies, you probably have seen Loki. Loki is in the movies is Thor's kind of brother, who is kind of a scumbag, you know.
That's right, his adopted brother.
His adopted brother, right? Well, that's kind of what Loki actually is. He is an adopted son that was raised by Odin, but he's part giant, and because he's part giant, he never really was accepted or loved the way that Odin's blood sons and daughters were loved, and this
No coincidence.
caused a lot of.
She says,
Oh,
I subbed to
thanks.
both your channels for the first time I've seen you. No coincidence. So thank you.
Oh, wow.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that
Okay,
really
so
a lot.
Odin, I'm
So,
sorry.
so Odin, well, so Loki being this jealous guy that he is, and he's sort of a creator of chaos. In many ways, Loki is the creator of necessary chaos. You know how
Correct.
sometimes in your life you need to have
Oh,
things
yes,
shake up
yes.
a little bit. Loki is the god of like some necessary chaos that needs to happen. And but Loki at Ragnarok, along with frost giants and fire giants and a bunch of people that came up from Helheim, they go and they attack the gods and they kill the gods.
So why?
Because I feel like those gods all felt, well, the giants aren't really gods per se, but they're supernatural beings. And they were very, very jealous of the fact that Asgard was so big and beautiful and that Odin was so all powerful and all seeing. And I feel like all the other members of all these different realms just felt like they were being suppressed by the gods. And so they took the gods down and us with it and Midgard with it, you know. And given the fact that fire consumed Midgard and then was flooded by the ice that melted as the result of this great fire, and because so many different traditions across the planet have a flood story.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
it makes me think that Ragnarok is just part of that whole cataclysmic thing that happened to the whole entire world um, long ago.
Well, I'm
And,
just letting them
and
know that they do that again. I'm not coming up out of Helheim to get in a fight. I'll be drinking. I tell them I'll
right,
catch
right,
y'all later.
right. You're gonna just sit at the table. I'm gonna eat
That's
my
right.
turkey leg, and I'm gonna enjoy myself. And
That's right. I'll catch y'all later with that
yeah,
mess.
yeah. When you're done,
Uh,
when you're done with
that's
that,
right.
see
We're
me.
not making no mess. You know. And again,
But
we had talked earlier about this sort of the matrilineal way and the patriarchal way. So all these
yes,
men get all mad and we're going to fight and kill and destroy stuff. It's like, you should
right.
ask the ladies to get involved in this. So let's talk about, like I know Thor and I know Odin. And then I said from my Ascended Master card, and they were all talking about, Kyle Gray just loving his decks. And yes, I have all of his decks. And Jane was saying she had all his decks, and Scott let me know he's coming out with a new deck, I think in November, which I
Oh,
will buy. No secret. I
nice.
don't even have to whisper that. My wife knows I'm gonna get that. So let's talk about the lady gods. So we got
Yes, Freya. Now Freya is part. Okay, there's two groups of gods in the Norse pantheon. You have the Aesir and you have the Vanir. Okay, now the Aesir gods are Odin, Frigg, Thor, Balder, Loki. They're all kind of, well, Loki's a giant, but they're all part of the Aesir gods. And on the other side, you have the Vanir gods, which is Njord, who's sort of my patron god, Njord, Freya and Freya. Those are his son and daughter, and several others that are on the
Boo.
Vanir side.
I'm saying boo to Gerald. He doesn't have any Kyle Gray decks.
I have one.
I'm just saying, Gerald. But Gerald loves tarot. So I'm sorry, my lovey-dovey, for saying boo to you. I know you also love the tarot deck. So when you say, what do you say, the seer and the veneer?
Yeah, the Aesir and the Vanir. So
So then,
these two groups of gods and
okay,
were fighting each other, and they decided, you know what, this is a stalemate. We're not going to win, so let's trade hostages. You
okay,
give us the Aesir will give 2 people to the Vanir. The Vanir will give some people to the Aesir, and then we'll just live in peace and harmony. So Njord, Freya, and Freya went from the Vanir to the Aesir to go live in Asgard, and they sent people over to the Vanir to
now did you
live
say
there.
Freya twice?
Freya and Freyr.
Oh,
Freyr
Lord.
is a boy. Freya is a girl. So Freya is another one of my. She's of all the goddesses in the Norse pantheon, she's my absolute, the one that I look to the most, the one that I talk to the most.
All right, well,
Freya
let's talk about her.
Freya is, she's kind of an all-encompassing goddess. She has a lot, there's so many awesome qualities about her that she really incorporates so much of what it means to be a goddess. When you look at other pantheons and stuff, and what those goddesses can do, Freya can probably do that and more. She's an all-around amazing goddess. She had a true heart for Midgard, for all of us. She um, is quite the warrior. She's the goddess of fertility. Um, and she's just, I talk to her all the time. She's probably just like, oh my gosh, this lady is talking to me again. Oh my gosh. Because I out of all the goddesses in the pantheon, she's the one that I talk to the most. So I really like her. Uh-oh, am I frozen again? Uh-oh. Let me try restarting. there we
I think we're back. I lost my internet. So you're talking about Freya
Yes. So
and what you
Freya,
learned about her. We are back. Kristen Louise, welcome. Thank you all for hanging out while we
yes,
went
sorry
to
about that.
Twilight Zone, while we went to Helheim.
We went to Helheim. We were drinking,
But now we're back.
but now
So
we're
we're
back.
talking about Freya and just how powerful she is.
She
And
is.
so
She
go on.
Freya means lady in Old Norse. So she was um out of all the gods and goddesses that are out there, I think if you went into just the average Joe Norse person's house during that time, I think that one of the few altars you would find in the house would have been to Freya. So Freya was venerated by just about everybody who was part of the northern traditions from like about 100 BC all the way forward to close to 1300, when the last few people who were hanging on to paganism finally let go of it. And she is.
Kristen Louise is also saying that Freya is the goddess that she mostly works with right now. She is Norse pagan.
Freya's yeah. Oh, you are. Hey,
So Dally's
yay! Yeah.
part of your fam.
Yay! I'm always happy to meet other people who are Norse
Now,
pagan.
is there a goddess named Frigga?
There's Frigg, yes, Frigg or Frigga. That is Odin's wife, and sometimes Frigga and Freya.
Yeah, see, Gerald said he works with Frigga, and I thought Freya was Odin's wife.
No, Freya is not Odin's wife. Frigg is Odin's wife, and she is a very much the god of mothers and mature women. And so she is another person who I work with a lot.
Okay.
Being a woman over 50, I feel like a kinship with Frigg. But Freya is who I often will talk to. She's love, fertility. She was a warrior. She's a badass, and I really like her.
All right, that's my type of girl. That is my type of girl.
I have let's see, do I have a picture here, Freya? I do. So
while she's looking, I want to say, everyone, please remember to hit the thumbs up on my channel, and please go and subscribe to this beautiful, magnificent, badass we got right here ourselves, Dolly, the Wolf Girl Oracle. Please subscribe. Oh, here we go. This is Freya. She's married.
Yeah, this is a depiction of Freya. Freya's neat because she's got a cart there are two big Norwegian forest cats that pull her cart.
Oh my goodness. So what the heck?
So she's kind of the goddess of a lot of times you'll see her depicted with cats. Okay. Because she's a goddess and I'm a cat lover. I love my cats.
It looks like so Freya's husband's name is ODR?
Yes, Oder, that's right. And so Frigg, I got a picture of her too. She is the queen of Asgard. So she sits on the throne. Whenever Odin is out and about, she is running things.
All right.
She is in control, and really, we know that she is the woman behind the man, if you know what I'm talking about. So she's often depicted with a baby, because she's depicted as a mother type. She's also depicted with like a spinning wheel a lot of times, where she's weaving thread, weaving yarn, so that's symbolic of like weaving time. So she is, out of all of the gods and goddesses of the pantheon, the Norse pagan pantheon, she is probably the most in tune when it comes to being clairvoyant and being a medium and being able to talk or to see the future, where Odin had to hang upside down from a tree to learn his runes and get some of his information and pluck an eye out. She was born with it. She didn't have to do all these extraordinary magical things in order to have that
sounds
power.
Like the Queen of Cups, nurturing, emotional,
very
type.
Yes. In fact, I think that Frigg and the Queen of Cups could be synonymous. However you say that word with one another, they're kind of, you could interchange them. very much the same. Another goddess I love a lot is called Ir, E-I-R, Ir. She is the goddess of healing. And so she's the goddess that often gets prayed to when people are looking to either be healed themselves or for someone else to be healed. So like somebody in my group says, "Hey, can you say a prayer for me? I'm having heart issues." Ir is the person that we all go to and pray to for that person.
All right. So it looks like Kristen Louise is dropping some more information. She's saying she, I take it, probably is Frigga, that she has the keys. Norse woman who had the keys of the homestead ran the roost.
Yes. Frigg. That was Frigg. Yes, absolutely.
Well, it looks like you need to have Kristen Louise on your show because she got
we gotta talk.
statue. I'm just saying, have her on the show. You two can just Norse pagan out.
Yeah, we could have a Norse pagan hour. That would be awesome.
Right.
I would love that.
You talked about Freya and Frigg and EIR. Who else are some of the divine feminine?
Idun or Idun, however it's said both ways. With the apples, yeah, the goddess of fertility. There's Skadi, who is another one of my favorite gods. She's actually a giantess, but she's a lot like Artemis. Do you know Artemis from Greek mythology, the huntress?
Yes. I was gonna say like Demeter. Yes,
or Demeter. Yes. She's a lot like that. She's a huntress. She's a winter girl. She's often depicted on skis, and she's somebody that you can pray to, for a good outcome through the winter. Back, I mean, even today, if you live in the northern half of the world, you have a whole half a year where you don't have any sun. You have like 6 months of like twilight and 6 months of full sunshine, where at midnight it's still light out. So they go through these crazy extremes, and Skadi is one of those gods that you pray to help you get through that the darkness of winter and the cold.
Okay.
And and I'll, like, if it snows here in Milwaukee, I'll be like, Skadi's around. That's kind of one of our things. Or like when it's thundering out, you're like, hey, Thor.
Indeed.
But she's another one that I think is really cool. And I just think the whole pantheon is cool. The whole pantheon is just really an interesting group of gods and goddesses. They all have something, that you can go to them with and pray for. Like you can't see it because I have my giant wolf in the way here, but I have an altar behind me that has Odin, Thor, and Tyr, and those are three gods of strength and they're gods of strength, they're gods of wisdom, they're warrior gods, they're loyalty and friendship gods. Tyr especially, Tyr gave up part of his hand. He gave up his hand to save his fellow gods, so he's kind of the embodiment of loyalty and friendship, So, but yeah, there's so
now we talked about the ladies. You talked about Tyr. So is there a divine masculine of the gods that you work with?
Njord, Njord, Njord. Njord he's actually the god of shipbuilders, fishermen. He's kind of seen as a sea god, just because he's a shipbuilder's god. He is the god of commerce and prosperity. And I work with him quite a bit. My family history on my father's side were fishermen. We were fisher folk. And we came from a place called Hell, Poland, Hel, Poland. And they came here to America. My grandfather came to America when he was a young man, and he and his father built a fishing boat, and they were fishermen, and they fished off of Jones Island for many years. And he had a statue of Njord on the right above the steering wheel of the boat. He had a little statue of Njord, and I didn't know that it was Njord until I thought about it later. It was a guy standing there with an oar in his hand, which is how Njord is depicted all the time.
All right.
And then I put all this together. I'm like, okay, they were from Hell, and they're fisher folk, and they've got these statues of Njord. I'm like, they had to have been a little bit pagan, you know. So Njord is who I connect to my father, who's no longer with us. I connect to my father and to my grandfather through Njord. I often will go into a meditation to specifically try to connect with Njord, and will end up seeing my father and my grandfather.
All right.
So that connection has made him really a special god to me, you know. But I also like Thor a lot. I also like Tyr and Odin. You know, I like all of them really, you know, but Njord is who I work with the most. Actually, the Vanir gods, Njord, Freya, and Freyr are the three gods that I work with the most. I get the
Hmm.
Vanir vibes, you know.
There you go.
So
There you go. Well, very good. So I think one of the things um, I didn't ask you before, but you posted on Facebook that you are a member of the LGBTQ community,
I am.
just
I
like
am.
me. And
I
you have
am.
a beautiful wife. And so the reason I wanted to bring your partner, your wife up is that we had talked about that when I worked at a metaphysical store in Belmont Shores, because that's the hoity-toity name for Long Beach in Belmont Shores, that a man came in looking for runes, and I was like, dude, tell me all about it. So
Yeah.
he was looking for some. I think those store-bought runes or those sort of commercial runes weren't exactly what he was looking for,
Right. A
because
lot of time
he was
we'll
talking
make
about something. I'm like, open the packs. If you need to open the packs, go ahead and do that.
mhm.
And so him and I were just like vibing, because I was like, oh the God, what are you doing out? I could tell. So we were having like this whole thing. And then
Mhm.
when he left, the woman working with me said, well, you gotta be careful for them. They're like bigoted and prejudiced. They think they're all blonde and beautiful, and that their
No.
white gods are better than everyone else. Now I didn't get that
No.
vibe off of him at all. And he
No,
wants to
and
talk
most
about
of
this.
us, no, most Norse pagans, and I'm sure in the chat too, she'll confirm this with me. Most Norse pagans are not prejudiced. They're not racist. They believe they're like me. You know, they feel like where the land that you're from is going to always speak to you, right? Like if your ancestors for thousands of years were all buried in the same place or the same region, of course you're going to have somewhat of an inner calling to that, but it doesn't make it better or worse than anybody else. That's why with the Norse paganism, we put a strong emphasis on the landvitir, the land spirits. I'm here in America. This is where I'm going to be dead and buried, right? People who are related to me far off in the future might feel a pull to Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Okay.
but I hope that they don't think that that's like the be all and end all when it comes to spirituality, is that it all happens right here in Milwaukee, right? So we don't have, in my group, in the Fellowship of Northern Traditions that I belong to, we have Black people, we have Hispanic people, we have Asian people, we have people from South Africa, we have, like I was saying, from Australia, from all over the world. And what they all have in common is the fact that they had somewhere in their ancestry somebody who was connected to the Northern traditions. So they're either in our group looking at that side of themselves,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or perhaps they found a kinship with that side of themselves, or they're looking at both sides of themselves or all the sides of themselves, like I'm doing. Like I'm a big mutt, I have like all kinds of things going on, and I'm looking at it all. Okay. But so yeah, there are people out there who have appropriated Norse symbology and Norse terminology and have turned it into something ugly, but that's a very small percentage, and
And
a
that's
lot of
what, like,
that.
what Christine Louise agrees with you. She says there's a small, loud minority who are like that. But the reason I brought up your partner, I don't know if you guys are
Right.
married, is that she's a beautiful woman of color.
She is. Yes, she is.
And
Yes,
so
she
that's
is.
a way
I have a black son.
all right. And welcome, Sharon Lee. So that is
So
beautiful. And that's the whole thing we had talked about before, that when you put them all on paper, we're talking about the same divine energies and that they serve a purpose. So some of them are anthropomorphized of
correct.
nature, or they
Yes.
have, They had a purpose. Master Teacher Jesus came to bring wisdom, to show us that we could heal
Yes.
ourselves, to show us that the divine was within us. Buddha, the same thing, to go within. And so you have that, that you can call them, Thor, uh,
Or Mars.
Kanyean,
Yeah.
the Orishas have
Aries.
shown me themselves,
Yeah.
Yamoja. You can call them by that, but this is a understanding of an eternal, in my opinion, an eternal representation of the divine, which is
Yes.
neither male nor female, but is all.
Right. And
The way that those are presented.
I have a personal belief that isn't necessarily Norse pagan,
Mhm.
that when this realm was created, when this universe was created by the divine entity had to create a space where the divine was not for a short period of time. Had to create a void. And almost every tradition in the world starts with a void.
Correct. Correct.
Okay? So the divine creates the void, and when the divine shone his light, in Judaism they call it the Shekinah light. I'm
Oh,
sure
yes,
you've
the
heard that
Shekinah
before.
presence. That's the
Right.
divine feminine. That is the
Right.
feminine God.
Right. So when that Shekinah light was shown into that little pinprick in the void, it was prismatic in the way that it expanded, and so many things came out of that one
Correct. What did the
divine
Shekinah say? Let there be light.
light.
Let there be
Yes.
energy. Let there
Yeah.
be flow. That's what light
Yes.
represents.
Yes. Yes. So we might be different people all over the world who have different names for these different aspects, these different parts of the prism, right? But it all came from the same source, and that's the
Correct.
way that I look at it.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
somebody in Norse paganism, I'll leave you with something kind of funny. I don't know how long you wanted to go, but I know it's getting close to 7. I'm going to tell you a funny Norse pagan story. So, in the beginning, there was a giant cosmic cow,
Okay.
and this giant cosmic cow, um, I don't know where the cow came from. None of us. We always have this big joke when we talk about the cow, the universal cow, the cow that appeared and was actually feeding the first beings with its milk. Where did the cow come from? We don't know where the cow came from, but the cow appeared and was feeding the first primordial beings. And I I look at that as another piece of the prism, just another piece of the prism. Like there's all these little puzzle pieces that are out there in all these different spiritual systems. And I think that it's our job as a human being to just find all the truth that we can and incorporate that into our lives. So although I call myself a person of the northern traditions, a pagan of the northern traditions, there's a whole lot going on back here. Okay, there's a lot. It's more than just paganism. But
Indeed. Indeed.
I find that the pagan rituals are very beautiful. They're very warm and loving and powerful, and they connect you, they ground you to the earth, they ground you to the land and to each other. And it's that community that makes it powerful. It's the community of people together that makes it such a powerful and beautiful thing, And that's why we open our arms in the Fellowship of Northern Traditions to anyone who would like to come and worship with us. So we have Native American people who often come and worship with us, and people from all different types of traditions who come and worship with us. And I love that because I glean a little bit from every single person that I talk to. So when I die, I want to have the biggest, fullest brain of wisdom and knowledge that I possibly can. That's what I'm going for. That's why I'm not fat. I'm just full of knowledge.
There you go. There you go. And fat is okay with me. So we are at the hour, and I do have laundry and stuff to do because I was away this weekend with my lady love.
Yeah, did you have fun?
We had fun. We went to Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, yay.
At an amazing, so Dolly, Kristen's saying, now don't give up your eye for that knowledge, okay?
No.
We We had an amazing restaurant called Char. And so I'm running a little bit behind. You are getting so much love. Love learning about this. Thank you for sharing. Love having you here. I am so glad for part one of
Yes.
our conversation. I do want to say that if you have not already, to please subscribe to Dolly's program, the Wolf Girl Oracle. It's down here. If you haven't already subscribed to me, join me in the mornings, Monday through Friday. I have
Yes.
mornings with Minnassa. And so I'm going to say this tomorrow morning, but I'm also going to ask that you would all hold space for me. Tomorrow, I am going to do a presentation. There's a group here in Memphis called Out Memphis, and they are the LGBTQ center here. And after getting basically the door shut in my face at another institution, the goddess had already set it up to where when I reached out to them, someone gave me a recommendation. And so basically, I am a stranger to them. And I'm going to do a presentation so they can see how I am. And then 7 weeks after that, I'm going to be doing mindfulness training under my Minnassa business.
Yes.
And
I'm
so
excited.
I just want to go and be myself. So if you can hold space, I'm telling you, I'm like, I want to do this, this, and this. They're like, well, we had to do this and this. So just very excited, very excited.
I'll talk to Freya for you.
Please, please. I see that Sharon from Strawberry Rhubarb has subscribed to people sending prayers for me. And so, Dolly, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. And this was part one
Part one.
of having more. All of you, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Thank you for being here. All of these people, Jane the Seeker, Strawberry Rhubarb, have their own shows. Kristen Louise, go back through the chat and support this great group of people. My boyfriend, Terrell Stash, this is a community that has accepted me. I came in as a stranger and accepted me and loved me and support me and empower me and believe in me. And, you can't pay for that. And so if you are interested in, well, should I be hanging out with these tarot readers and pagans and all this blah, blah? Yeah, you should, because this is where the love is.
We're the light workers.
Indeed, indeed. Or as what KD, we're the moon dancers.
We're the moon dancers. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So all of you, thank you for being here. Thank you to those of you who are going to watch after the fact, and please make sure that you go. Thank you, sweet Katie, holding space for us all. Please go and subscribe to these channels, and then everyone hold space for Kristen Louise, because she said I'm not on here because I don't be having any ideas. Okay, she dropped like 40 tons of knowledge in here. You got the Norse knowledge. Sister girl, get your video. Let's get those Norse people up here. We're supporting you. We're
Yes.
believing in you.
Yes.
We're holding that space for you. Come on and get on your YouTube channel. All right.
Do
And
it.
all of you have a good evening. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for those that come to watch later. I'll be back on the first Saturday in August. Love to you all. And thank you again, Dolly, for being here and bringing
Thank
your
you for having me.
your energy and your love. Okay, I keep saying goodbye, then I don't leave. Okay, bye.